So, in this video today, we'll talk about low and high context cultures. Before, we already talked about direct and indirect communication, what cultural dimensions are, uncertainty avoidance, and risk-taking. And I will quickly lead you through what we have already talked about. We talked about cultural dimensions, functions of culture, what communication is and how we communicate. We talked about the message, how the message is received and how the message is delivered. And here we also talked about verbal and non-verbal communication, the words and the context, what the words mean and what the context is. So according to this, we can divide all communication into high context communication and low context communication. As you see, high context communication is where the context plays a great role, and low context communication is where meaning comes from words, not from non-verbal cues. When we look at high context and low context communication, we'll see that in the contexts, the words have different meaning. For example, if in high context, meaning comes more from non-verbal cues such as body language, facial expression, tone, place, time, past experience. In low context, everything will be more clear and more direct. And we discussed these examples, and you probably remember that we said, I'm hearing you, may mean I agree with you in high context culture, but in low context culture, it may just mean that the person hears you. So high and low context cultures are also very much determined by what the general culture is. As you remember, low context cultures, which are explicit, which have clear rules, and direct, are more prone for Protestant and individualistic countries, while high context cultures are already a feature of Muslim, Confucian, and collectivist cultures. Between them, you see, we have France, Italy, Spain, which are in between low and high context cultures. So when we compare two cultures, we can compare them by using the overtness of the message, the locus of control, the use of non-verbal communication, the expression of reaction, the cohesion and separation in groups, the bonds between people, level of commitment to relationship, and even flexibility of time. In high context cultures, messages are covert, implicit. In low context cultures, they are overt and explicit. Much nonverbal communication, less nonverbal communication, reserved inward reactions and visible reactions. And finally, we come to relationships, which in high context cultures are more a focus of a culture than in low context cultures. And this table is like at the bottom of the table, we see the time, the flexibility of time, and the high organization of the time in low context culture. If we go back to the cultural dimensions that we have been discussing all the time, we'll see that low context and high context cultures are very much associated with certain cultural dimensions. And if, for example, we add this table to the cultural dimensions that we have already talked about, we'll see that such dimensions as individualism and collectivism, particularism, universalism, masculinity, femininity, and monochronic and polychronic attitude to time are very much connected with how people communicate. So this is masculinity, monochrome. So in general, when we talk about high context culture, and today I am citing the Alverson's book, Cultural Context Inventory, we'll see that these cultures are associated with the relationship, with building slowly relationship, with importance of interaction, when the space is common, when every has his or her own time, and the learning occurs from multiple sources of information. While the low context cultures, they are displaying this very quick formation of relationship. Nonverbal elements are not that significant. The space is every person's matter, because privacy is important. So very often people stand far apart from each other. So events are scheduled and only one source of learning is used. So we don't learn from multiple sources, but we believe and trust to one source. So of course, in such cultures, if I talk about the high context culture, I can't but mention the importance of nonverbal elements, the importance of this finding more meanings in what is not said. And the very important moment that the concept of face saving and depersonalization of disagreement is important as well. So once again, today here we talked about low and high context cultures, and we based our talk on what we have already know about communication, which is between two individuals, which very much is built on the context and the words. The words in high context communication, they don't have that much meaning as they have in low context. That is why here we may talk about directness and indirectness. And in high context communication, the context plays the great role. So very often, for avoiding uncertainty and for taking risks, communicators need to do extra steps. So such as small talk, recognizing what people mean, and just knowing what the meaning of the words are. All those important moments will help you to become better communicators if you think about the context of communication. Thank you and bye.